goes, when nothing is perceived like in dreamless sleep, how is there still consciousness? That's very interesting. Somebody sent me a similar question that I was going to go through later. So when nothing is perceived like in dreamless sleep, how is there still consciousness? Okay, so David, how do you know that nothing is perceived in the deep sleep state?
I will try and unmute, but I prefer to mute and type because my children are running around.
Oh, okay. Okay, we'll see how it goes. Okay. So the question is,
yeah,
how do you know that in the deep sleep state there is, according to your words, nothing is perceived?
Well, I know when somebody will walk into the room that the body will wake up. So there is still some perceiving going on. You know, if I'm in deep sleep and the kids throw open the door, I will wake up, you know, this body mind.
Yes.
There must be still consciousness, but I think I'm so used to having memory of something, you know, even of dreaming. I have memory, I usually know what I dreamt.
Okay.
It's a mix up there.
Yeah. Memory is basically a thought. It's a thought that's arising that this morning I had cereal for breakfast. It's a current thought that is being perceived, that we refer to as memory because there is a time impression to this thought. Right? But my question was, and I understand what you said, but how do you know that in deep sleep there is nothing perceived? I mean, you know that.
Mm-hmm.
We all know that in deep sleep there are no bodily sensations, at least almost 0.001%. There are no thoughts, no images, and there are no sense perceptions. But how do we know that? It's a good question, no? I mean, you know, because we all know that. I mean, we all know that. But the question is, how do we know that? For example, a similar question is, you know that you're aware. Yes? If I ask you, are you aware? You say, yes, I'm aware.
Yeah.
And if I ask you, are you aware that you are aware?
Mm-hmm.
You will answer, oh yeah, I'm aware that I'm aware. So it's a similar question. How do we know that? How do we know that in deep sleep? So in deep sleep there are no perceptions. We all know that there are no sense perceptions, because something knows that. Something is there in deep sleep that checks, looks around, does not perceive any sense perceptions, looks at thoughts and doesn't perceive any thoughts, and says, oh, you know, in deep sleep there are no bodily sensations. What is it? What is that which knows the absence of body-mind events in the deep sleep state? Anyways, that is what we refer to as consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
Consciousness knows its existence. It doesn't tell the mind, hello, you know, I exist, because the mind is perceived, the mind is known by consciousness,
mm-hmm.
and is not knowing. There is no, the mind is not conscious, it is consciousness that is conscious of the mind. So the mind cannot be conscious of consciousness. So your question is, how do I know that in deep sleep there is consciousness? My question to you, and maybe a question to yourself, I invite you to look at that, is what is the I that you're referring to? If the I that you're referring to is the body-mind, then it's very simple. The body-mind cannot know consciousness. But consciousness knows the body-mind.
Mm-hmm.
But if your question is, how does consciousness, I as consciousness, know that in deep sleep I am, I meaning I consciousness am, then the answer to that is that it knows because it's there. It is there and it knows there are no sense perceptions. It is consciousness that says, you know, in deep sleep, there are no trees, there are no butterflies, there are no images, there is no body. It is consciousness that knows that because it is there.
Mm-hmm.
You see, because we are so habituated, David, to mistake the mind with consciousness. We mistake the body-mind to be what is conscious.
Yeah.
So whenever the body-mind is muted, like for example in anesthesia, under anesthesia or in deep sleep, we have the impression that consciousness is muted. So we ask, gee, well, what happens to consciousness when I'm under anesthesia?
Mm-hmm.
Nothing happens to consciousness under anesthesia, because under anesthesia it is the body-mind that is dimmed down to zero or to near zero. Like a dimmer. You have an electric current in the house, and you have a dimmer or light switch with a dimmer that controls a specific light bulb. That specific light bulb can be dimmed down to zero so that this light bulb is completely non-luminous. But this does not mean that the electric grid is turned off.
Mm-hmm. Does consciousness have a will?
It will?
A will.
Was that your question?
Yes. Does it want something?
Oh, this consciousness. Consciousness is not in the wanting business, it's in the loving business. Is a lover. Consciousness is a lover, not a wanter. It loves. It loves. Consciousness is love. Consciousness loves laughter, loves friendship, loves celebration, loves contemplation, loves beauty, loves creativity, loves everything and everybody. It's compassionate. It's so. If you want to use the term will, then I would say that the will of consciousness is universal love. It's like the light. It's like asking, what does the sun want, or what does the sun has a will? Yes, the sun has a will, which is to shed light onto the entire. Just shed light. It sheds light. It just sheds light. It's luminous.
Mm-hmm.
So consciousness is luminous. It's intelligence, it's beauty, it's love, it's heart, it's compassion, it's embrace, it's empathy, it's humor, it's a celebration. So I would say that consciousness is that, not consciousness wants that, but of course we're talking in relative language. Consciousness is that. It is love. And love is possible. Love and beauty and compassion is, the fullness of that is possible when the separate me and the separate you. One moment. When the separate me and separate you are quiet. There isn't this, oh, what's happening to me? What is going to happen to me tomorrow? Or why did I do this? Why did he do this? Why didn't she do that? Why, when that is quiet, down to zero, it's beautiful. It's absolute beauty.
So I often sit daily in meditation, and what I often see, it's quite easy in formal meditation, easy to see that I'm not the mind, because thoughts will just come and go. So you cannot perceive consciousness. But when I see how thoughts have gaps between them, sometimes quite long, it reminds me of, it makes me feel good, there is nothing to worry about, it's just silence between some thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
And it reminds me of, you cannot perceive consciousness, but if you look for it, it brings you happiness. Is this the right way to practice? To look for something you can never find, but enjoy the side effects?
Yeah. The looking, David, the looking, it's consciousness that looks.
Yeah.
Like right now, it is consciousness, which means a spaciousness of presence. It's an effortless and borderless, space-like presence. That's what perceives.
Mm-hmm.
So when you say I'm looking for consciousness or noticing the gap, what is it that notices?
Mm-hmm.
The noticing itself refers to consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
It refers to, like right now when noticing this perception, noticing itself refers to the open, borderless space of presence, of consciousness. So it is sufficient to be aware of noticing and to also contemplate that what is aware of noticing is the noticing itself. In other words, consciousness is conscious that it is the reality. This consciousness is conscious of itself, and is conscious of itself not as a limited mind event. It's conscious of itself as this borderless, eternal, never turned off, like the sun is never turned off, shining light of presence.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're meditating, what is it that meditates?
Mm-hmm.
What is it that meditates? If David is meditating, then the meditation needs to be, what is this David? Because this David is appearing. It's appearing as a thought, it's appearing as a memory, it might be appearing as a bodily sensation, whichever way this character is appearing, what perceives it? So if there is an awareness that David is meditating, what is knowing that David is meditating? That knowledge is you, is I. I know I am meditating, for example, yes? So there is a knowingness of the meditator, and this knowingness is what we refer to as I, meaning I consciousness. Mm-hmm. And when you examine that I, not the David that is being perceived or that is meditating, but the I that is aware of the meditator, you will find just a borderless presence. That you cannot name it David, Magdi, Joe, John. You cannot name it. It's unnameable, unperceivable, and yet it is undeniable.
Yes. Exactly what you say. You cannot perceive it, but yes, exactly like you say, you cannot deny it. Yes.
Undeniable, because it is what is referred to as I am, Sat, Satchitananda, Sat, I am, presence. I am. It's like you are. You don't need to think about it. You don't need to ask anybody about it. You know I am.
Yeah.
And you know I am aware. Meaning that I am a knowing. Meaning you know I am knowingness. You know that I am knowing. You don't need to ask anyone. That's like it's inborn. This is Satchit. And the Ananda is the bliss of that. Realizing, coming to the understanding that the I am, this knowingness, I am this knowingness is never turned off. It's not everything that is known comes and goes. You know, the day, the weather, you know, spring and then the fall and all these weather, the weather comes and goes. But the I am aware, I am knowing, that is never turned off.
Yes.
Even in deep sleep, like we were just talking a few minutes ago, even in deep sleep, there is this impression that, oh, I am turned off. No, the mind is turned off, but not the I am. You see, coming to that deep understanding of that, David, brings you to this presence right here, right now. It's about this presence. It's not some intellectual understanding, you know. It's a we formulate the experience, you see. So in words right now, I'm speaking something that a reality, truth of presence. So the truth of presence is what we are talking about. And that is not limited or contained. It's not born. Elements in it are born and die. Elements in it appear and disappear. The oak tree appears and disappears, and your pet appears and disappears.
What fascinates me is that everything just seems to be happening by itself, you know? Everything.
Yes, like when you in your night dream, David, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Isn't it amazing? Like you might be in Hawaii, then you might be flying over the Pacific Ocean, then you're a fish, and then you're a turtle that flies. Then you're, you know, with other friends that you don't even know who they are, and yet you're being really happy with them, and then a lion is chasing you. Yes, it's when you say it's happening of itself, you can look at this perception right now, this experience right now. You could say this experience right now is happening of itself. This perception is happening of itself.
Yes.
But more interesting than it's happening of itself is what is it? Is what is it? And when we go into like what is it, we come onto the I am. We come onto consciousness, onto presence, onto wow, look at this. It's all arising out of me, in me, like right now this perception is in you. It's not outside of you. It's all in you. Everything you perceive is using the term in, you know, using that is in you, and it's made out of you. Because right now you're perceiving your perception, right?
Mm-hmm.
And where is your perception? Is it 1 meter away from you? Or is it, you know, 20 centimeters away from you? Neither.
No.
It's complete intimacy. You know, your experience, your perception, and you are complete intimate. You're one. Zero distance is one.
But, yeah.
So it's arising out of you. It's made out of you. Not you, the body mind. You, that aware presence, that consciousness, the Atman, the absolute beingness, whatever terms, God in the religious terminology.
I'm sorry.
Yes, yeah. Beautiful, cute voices in the background.
Magdi?
Yes. Hello, Ananda.
Hi.
Hello, Ananda.
Hi. Well, Suzanne and I were talking earlier about why is it that a lot of spiritual traditions talk about the goal is to not be reborn, and the goal is to come back to the source and not have to mess with this messy incarnation business.
Well, that's. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, once you have clarity about consciousness in relation to manifestation, then is there an advantage to not be to not be connected with corporality, so to speak? And then, in addition to that, I was thinking, well, then the Dalai Lama, etc., presumably had clarity, but goes through the bardo, comes back to here to, I mean, who knows?
Mm-hmm.
But it seems perfectly plausible that it's not better to just disappear into light.
Mm-hmm.
And then the question, of course, who would disappear into light or be here? It's all the same consciousness.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. In the Buddhist tradition, they have the bodhisattva. Bodhisattva refers to, in the Buddhist tradition, upon your full awakening, then you come back to serve others and to save others and to help others out of their suffering. So there is that tradition of, in the Buddhist tradition, that once you're done, that the highest teaching or the highest practice, or the highest way of living, the Buddhist precepts, is to come back and help others.
But is that a bummer, or is it just as good as staying out there in the unified field?
See how to look at this. So the now I think it was Robert Adams, sage Robert Adams, who I don't recall, so I cannot paraphrase him, but basically he was sort of asked a similar question, and his reply was to the effect that there really are no others. There is just one reality, and that is the reality of consciousness. Now, as long as you are in this experience, in this worldly experience, it's a good idea to do your best to live according to the highest principle, to the divine principles of helping others and being available for others and so on. And there are many, there are, I wouldn't say many, but there are people who awaken and who get stabilized in the self, as the self, who are not teaching, who are just living this in whatever they're living. And although they're not teaching, in their space, there is the self that radiates, and they affect people in ways that differ from the way a teacher need to figure out how to shut this down. Let me see, one moment. This phone's, I think it's here. Yeah. Okay, well, I got it. There, it varies from. It varies. You have the entire spectrum. You have some spaces where there is this freedom to be available for others. Mm-hmm. In very, very clear ways, and in some other cases that's not so. It's just sort of below the radar. In terms of the awakening to the self, awakening to the self sort of ends the corporal. Is that the right word? Corporeal,
I think it is.
It's corporal, right? Corporeal. Corporeal. That's it. Right? It ends the corporeal phase of the. It ends that aspect of the dream. It moves to the light, to the energy, beyond that, beyond all possible mentations, or beyond the mind. And that transformation penetrates all minds. It shines onto everything that is mind. It sort of it goes. So the light of awareness is eternally available. It's eternally available because it's eternal. It's never turned off. It's always on. It's always on. So it's always helping people. It's always assisting. It's always there, guiding and calling you back home. Yes. So you don't need to do anything about that. There isn't like a personal intention about this. This is how it is. It's impersonal. Consciousness is eternal. It is infinite, and it's completely impersonal. The light of consciousness is never turned off. So the question about how to be or what to do after awakening, after the Sahaja Samadhi, that question ends. That question ends. There's a complete ending to that question. Because you are the self.
Yeah, the link to the active principle is not there.
Absolutely. Okay. The link to the active principle is not there in any specific way, but it's there across the entire space. It's so the entire field is the self. So it's not, there isn't like an intention to stop wars, or an intention to end poverty, or an intention to bring an end to suffering. There isn't, because all of these events, wars, hunger, suffering, despair, all the negative emotions and all the actions that bring suffering are part of the path. They're part of the journey. Part of the journey is despair. In some cases, deep despair, in reaching really deep despair, and so it is part of the journey. None of it needs fixing. So the fixing thought is a mind thing, and it's very lovely, in the waking dream, to be available, whichever way you can be of assistance, you can be of guidance, and it's available to you, and there is the interest and the resources that are available to you. Then it's done. It's done out of love, but it's not done out of trying to help people. No, trying to help people or end wars or bring an end to hunger in the world it's futile, because everything has its place and has its reason and has its function, but the love of the self radiates everything. It radiates through everything, because even the very wealthy might be very miserable, and the ones that have a lot of food and shelter and clothing, yes, might be in deep psychological angst.
Yes.
While there could be bliss and rejoicing and humility and great generosity among the very poor. Poor in talking about in money and wealth.
I just want to mention my good friend Marjorie, when she worked in a Peace Corps type of environment in Morocco with refugees who were dying, not enough to feed all the children even, And she said they had this beautiful, loving happiness that she'd never seen in America. She had never seen it.
Yeah.
It changed her life.
Yeah, I had similar experiences of being with people who are in utter poverty, and was quite amazed by their humor, generosity, and their kindness. But I'm not sure. Did I address your question?
I'm sorry I interrupted you, because I was enjoying what you were saying.
No,
I interrupted you, but
no.
I do have one other thought. Is when war, you mentioned war several times, and it's a big issue. When war is I see it, war is total hell. If there's, in what we call hell, you can't do anything worse than shoot and bomb people, and then they die and all that. So in this dream, the absolute worst is happening, as well as beautiful things are happening, and maybe for that to be fundamentally all right.
Well,
it's just
there's a tsunami comes. Tsunami comes and wipes out 200,000 people in 1 hour.
Yes.
An earthquake devastates 10,000 people, or landslides, or you name it. But even old age. Old age wipes out. I don't know, maybe 300,000 people a day. Just regular diseases or accidents, or people slipping, and falling, and
yes.
Have a friend who she must have been in her early 60s, walking down the steps slid, fell on her head, coma, and a week later they turned, just. So how about all of that? I mean, it's
Yes.
all.
Yes.
Like, or just old age, just good old age. Old age is wiping out. I mean, darn, old age is wiping out 20,000 people right now.
Yes. I know, it's wonderful. It's in a sense, it's wonderful that it's built right in. If you just look.
Yeah. See, the key thing is to realize that what you are, that consciousness is unscratched. The body can lose an arm. Mm-hmm. Consciousness doesn't lose an arm. The body can die. Consciousness does not die. So, what is the reality of your experience right now? The reality of your experience right now, whatever you're experiencing right now, every bodily sensation, every perception, is known via consciousness. Mm-hmm. And the bodily sensation is changing moment by moment, or even second by second. But what is the changeless? What is the eternal? What is the real in you that does not come and go? That does not age? Does not change? Is the consciousness? Is this aware presence? You see, and then to assume that this aware presence is dependent on the body is like assuming that the bird watcher is dependent on the binoculars. No, the bird watcher gives a hoot about the binoculars. Might just enjoy having its soup, or just going to sleep and forget about all the birds, or might pick up the binoculars and watch all the birds that he or she wants until she tires of it and says, "That's good enough for now. I'm gonna just play the piano." Yeah. So it's knowing yourself, knowing what you truly are, knowing the truth. I mean, the whole spiritual inquiry is about know yourself, meaning know your true self, know the truth, not the story, not the me story, you say, not the body-mind story, or not his story, the histories of cultures, cultural histories. No, it's not about that. It's not about that. It's about awakening to truth, you see. So the question about wars and calamities and old age, death and cancer and God knows what else, and my pot belly and my hair turning white, it's a joke. Or it's like waking up from the night dream and being so depressed because the pink flying elephant, the elephant that you fell in love with in your night sleep, is not there. And you're living, really bummed out day, waiting and hoping that tonight, when I go to sleep, I'll be able to fly with the pink flying elephant again. You see, it's like that. It's like, oh my God, the bodies are dying, people are dying, we're killing each other and they're burning each other. But yeah, it's when you're contemplating truth, you become tender. It's there is an expansion in your experience rather than like it is a relaxation in your space, and you find that naturally, effortlessly, you're loving and available for others. If there's some war, you might find yourself helping people to. If it happens in your space, you're doing your best, whatever. That's rather than thinking about, why the wars and to be at the mental, the war is no good and this good, that's good. Why don't we live? Why don't we really sort of live what we are, live what we truly are, and that takes care of. The difficulties that
and that it's radical, but it takes care of if the war comes here.
Yeah.
and the snipers come through the streets.
Yeah.
You know, it takes care of that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Where nothing else could really.
Yeah, yeah. Well, yeah. It's from a clean spring that clear everything with clarity flows from the clear source. So it gets maybe muddied down miles down from the source. It gets muddied. It picks up silt, or picks up whatever pollutants and so on there are. But from the source is pure. There's a purity from the source, and I am is the source. The I am. This effortless, this wondrous, awesome, borderless, loving, radiant presence is I. And it's a universal I. See, it's not I that ends at my skin, at the skin of the body. It's I-ness across the entire space. And all the dreams appear in I. I do not appear. And yet I am the reality of all dreams. I am the reality, the one reality, which is the reality of consciousness, and the reality of the world, body, mind.
Just a little further for me to delve in is that when the idea that the mental, of course you've heard this before, but the idea that that it's the mind of human beings is the one thing that's really hard to swallow, you know, that people decide to kill each other, you know, and it cause all this suffering. Makes it seem different from other calamities.
Well, no,
I'm just trying to take it into the whole.
Yes. But you see, you don't choose the weather, right?
Right, and you don't choose the voting in Washington.
And you don't choose voting, and you don't choose your thought. Because if you did choose your thoughts, then it would make sense that you would choose happy thoughts across the board. I mean, you might be stupid and choose unhappy thoughts for a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks, but you'll get wise to it after 2 or 3 weeks, and you say, hey, what the heck? Let me just go all the way with happy thoughts 24/7. It's great.
Yeah, okay.
After a 2-week learning process.
Yeah.
But that's not the case. You don't choose your thought. Thoughts arise to you, you see? It's not, so there isn't a personal chooser of thoughts. All thoughts arise out of consciousness, yeah? out of presence, out of beingness. So the mind, which we refer to the mind, there are 2 ways of referring to the mind. One of the ways is to refer to the mind as thoughts, memories, and so on. That's the mind, yeah? So we don't choose the mind, and the mind appears, thoughts appear in consciousness. So the mind is known. It's not a decider. It's not a chooser. It's not a doer. Known, like an oak tree. You perceive an oak tree. You know the oak tree. The oak tree is not knowing. A thought. You know a thought. You perceive the thought, but the thought is not knowing.
Yes.
It's known. Yes, it's known.
Yes.
So how can we say a human mind is doing this or that or causing this and that problem? It doesn't make sense. It's like saying, like, you know, you don't. It's something off in that way, you know. So it's really important to give to Caesar what belongs to Caesar. So consciousness, the knowingness belongs to consciousness. If you want to use the term doership belongs to consciousness. If you want to use the term will belongs to consciousness. So you have to give to Caesar what belongs to Caesar. And the mind, thoughts, there is a broader term to mind that I use often where I refer to thought, not just to mind, not just as thoughts and memories and so on, mentations. I also refer to mind in a broader sense. I include perceptions and bodily sensations, all of that. All what is phenomenal, I refer to as mind. In many of my writings, I refer to mind as being the global phenomenal realm of perceptions, sensations, and mentations. But all of these, whichever way you define mind, as simply mentation or as a more global mind, is known. So you know perception, and perceptions do not know you. You know bodily sensations. Bodily sensations don't know. I mean, thought is known. Thought A does not know thought B, or thought A does not know an oak tree. Doesn't know your mother. See? So then to give mind consciousness potential, like that mind is conscious and is erroneous.
Right. That it's an evil doer.
No.
It has to be a doer to be an evil doer. Yeah.
The whole thing of evil is a narrow-minded, half-cooked impression of good and evil.
Yes.
There is really no good and evil. It's all good. So the end of the impressions of conflicts and battles.
Oh, it gives a new meaning to be the peace you want to see in the world, or be the change you want to see in the world. It's not something that's not a doing, that's a being.
Yeah. Oh, David is saying, this is a tough one for me. It's all good. David, sometimes through hardships, we're as if we're forced to sort of take a closer look. Sometimes through difficult experiences, it sort of brings us to the edge of our patterns, and there is no way to come to causeless peace and happiness as long as we are still defending some old positions, some old belief systems. It has to be all surrendered. And we can surrender them willingly, or the universe will, let's say, coerce us to surrender. And sometimes it becomes tighter and tighter. You see, the tunnel becomes darker and darker. And the universe helps us to come home. Universe meaning consciousness, because the reality of all universes is this one reality, the reality of consciousness, is helping us to come home. And it helps us to come home sometimes through very, very difficult experiences. Why? Because we're not receiving the friendly notes. We receive the friendly notes that tells you, hey, you can let it go, man. And we say, what do you mean let it go? No, I gotta have it. Okay. Then we receive another notes that we open it and it bites us. Goes, okay, you have to let it go. Say, oh, no, I'm not letting it. And it gets, but it's all aiming to, all experiences in our life are aiming to bring us to become sober from being drunken with the me, being a addict of this me in time, the emotions and the feelings. The emotions and the feelings are like sticky, syrupy, molassy. It's stuck in them. It's stuck in the emotions, in the feelings, and that's where in the body, at the body level, it gets harder to let go. You let go of, oh yeah, you, my home, my house. Yeah, I can let go of all of that, but feeling that somebody is cheating me, or jealousy, or anger, or depression, or fear of what's going to happen to me tomorrow, or boredom, they more, but they call our attention. They call our attention. You know, this unhappiness really calls our attention, because we can't tolerate it. We can't stay unhappy. We can't stay unhappy. I mean, it kills us. We want to be free. We want to come to the freedom, and so we wonder, like, what's going on? I mean, when, you know, okay, we can go on with jealousy up to a certain point. After a while, we start, one way or the other, we start asking ourselves, what the heck's going on? What is going on? And in one question leads you to the other. You know, one situation, difficult situation in life leads you to another, to ask yourself, until you come to ask yourself, look, wait, what is real? So when you come here, when you come to satsang, when you come to these meetings, you've already asked yourself a million questions. You've already traveled a long journey that you forgot now. But you traveled a long journey to come here to be able to contemplate what is real, the reality of consciousness, that has no dispute, no issue, it's not trying to go anywhere. Nothing is happening to it. It doesn't get wet. It doesn't burn. It doesn't suffer. And it's not a mind state. It's not an experience. Mind states and experiences arise in consciousness as dreams, as the weather. So you come to the edge of the castle, the gates of the castle, and then you find that you're on the other side of the gate. You are the castle. So yes, all is good, irrespective of what the mind says, because the mind is a repetitive record, like a broken record. If you hear, you go around, you ask in the neighborhood or in the village, or you ask yourself, you will find a broken record that repeats the same groove. So irrespective of what the mind says, all is good. The reality of everything is consciousness. So contemplate what is the meaning of all is good and what all is good is referring to. Because the further you go away from the source, the more errant and lost you are. Like the prodigal son. At some point, you have to return home and know yourself as the only reality, the only truth, and not immortal truth, not a truth in time and space. Time and space are your dream impressions. And why not? Here we are, this meeting here, orchestrated in time and space, utilizing time and space mechanisms, scheduling the hangout and so on. But all of it unfolds in presence. And presence does not come and go. If the hangout doesn't work out for some reason, consciousness is not diminished, nor is it augmented by any experience. Insights are insights, what we refer to as enlightenment, are peaks, are insights into the reality of consciousness and its universality. Well, I have to prepare for another gathering, so thank you very much for your very, very lovely company. Very beautiful to be with all of you. And we'll see you again soon. Be well. Have a nice weekend.